Namaste all. Myself Omkar Marathe. I'm native from Sangli, which is in Maharashtra, and currently I'm working in semiconductor industry. Currently I'm associated with Intel Technologies. Uh, Currently staying in Hubli. So we'll be going through the session, today's session, which is on Chhatrapati Shivaji and Hindavi Swarajya. So in past we had a few sessions on Jinnasa platform on Chhatrapati Shivaji, which was more concentrated on the chronological sequences. But for this session, we have come up with the different way of covering the details on Shivaji, and that is through the idea of, or that is through Hindavi Swarajya or its importance. So we'll be covering the things in his life which were which created a difference or which were important in the coming future. So these are the 5 sections which I have listed that we'll be covering in this session. So we'll be looking at Shivaji and his life through what exactly was the idea of Hindavi Swarajya, how was the administration in Hindavi Swarajya, what strategies were followed in various wars and battles. But again, here we'll not be covering all the battles or all the wars which involved Hindavi Swarajya. We'll be looking at few selected incidents where it was a trend setter or it was making a difference. Similarly, we'll have a look at how he founded the Navy and how it helped in the coming days, coming years. And there is a new topic which I'll be bringing into this session, that is bill of exchange.
I'm not able to see the slides.
One second, Omkar, let's. I'm not getting the record pause option. Let's continue from here only. Start, please.
Yeah. So there's a new topic which we'll be bringing into discussion in this session, which we'll be covering in the next week. That is bill of exchange. So this is a unique way in which so the topic of bill of exchange is there in the records, but it was not discussed till today. Very few historians talk about this. So we can say that it was ignored. So we'll bring what happened in that particular episode, and we'll see how Shivaji tackled with British in a unique way. Yeah. So before we start, I thought of giving few introductory things. Though many of us are aware about this, but I thought of putting it here in the session. Yeah. Chhatrapati Shivaji, as we know, is founder of Hindavi Swarajya. He was born on Falgun Krishna Tritiya. So I have intentionally put the dates as per the Indian calendar as well. And bracket I have mentioned which are the corresponding dates as per English calendar. He was born at Shivneri Fort, which is in today's present day Maharashtra, near Pune. And he was named after goddess Shivai, who is a deity of Shivneri Fort. So one perception that Shivaji is named after Lord Shiva, though it looks logical, but that is not the case. He is named after Shivai. Yeah. So in case of this date of birth, so the date, some of you might be aware that there are some debates with respect to this date of birth, and some historians, there are 2 sections of historians. One claims that his date of birth is Vaishakh Dvitiya, which comes one day prior to Akshaya Tritiya. And but with the credible documents, it is proven that the date of birth is Falgun Tritiya. So as there was a debate among the scientists, so government accepted the date which was as per the English calendar, which comes out to be 19th February. So my personal opinion is of the personal opinion that I follow that Shiva Jayanti as per the Indian calendar. Why? Will some of the reasons we'll discuss in the session.
Omkar, will it be possible to turn on your video?
Yes, sure.
Yes, please. Thank you. Yeah, we can proceed.
So since childhood, he was trained in dharmic values as well as into warfare or the administration, which is required to run the government or run the governance. The reason was his father, Shahaji Raja, who initially was in the service of Nizam Shahi. Later point, he changed the services on several times. For a short duration, he was with Mughals. Again, after a few years, he was with Adil Shah. And being into service of different sultans or different emperors, he had the Jagir of Pune with him. And it was important in those days for the children of Jagirdars to be trained in warfare administration, as that system was hereditary, and some or the other day the child in the future would take up this role. But Jizabai and Shahji had different plans. Shahji, as I have mentioned in the slide, before the birth of Shivaji, and once when Shivaji was in his childhood, on 2 occasions he had attempted to form an independent kingdom of his own, in both of which he failed. But that thought of independent kingdom was it was always there in the thought, in the brains or in the thoughts of Jizabai and Shahji. And Shivaji could do that at the age of 16. He established Hindavi Swaraj.
Unable to see the slides, please. Unable to see the slides. Harinath ji or Nikhil ji or Omkar ji.
Yeah. So Shivaji founded the Hindavi Swaraj at the age of 16. So that's where we stopped, pause the discussion. Yeah, so can go to next slide. So I have added this picture of Shivaji taking oath of Hindavi Swaraj along with his associates. Next slide, please. So what were the unique things about this Hindavi Swaraj? Some of them I have listed. It was a Hindu kingdom in the region of present-day Maharashtra after a span of approximately 350 years. So the last Hindu kingdom in the region was the Yadavs of Devgiri, and it was conquered by Alauddin Khilji around the end of 12th century. Around the end of 13th century. And after that, post that, there was no Hindu kingdom. There was, it was not that all Hindu kingdoms were vanished. The Vijayanagar Empire was there, but that it was there for, if I'm not wrong, more than 250 years approximately. But over the period of time, when Bahmanis was split into 5 different sections, so 3 of them united together and they fought against Vijayanagar. They attacked Vijayanagar Empire, and we all know that part of the history. That after the defeat, the Vijayanagar Empire it declined after 1565. So as I mentioned in the previous slides, it's not that no one attempted. So there were 2 attempts from Shahaji, but both of them failed. And after the second failure, he had to join the service of Adil Shah, which was headquartered at Bijapur. And when he joined Adil Shahi, so the condition kept on him was he should stay away from the region of Maharashtra or the Jagir of Pune, which was his hereditary ancestral Jagir. So he was forced to leave that, and the condition was kept that he should be kept away from that. So he was deployed in the regions of Bangalore. The region around in and around Bangalore was given as a Jagir to Shahaji, and he was working from there. Why this condition was kept? So first attempt of Shahaji, it was completely independent attempt of independent kingdom. But the second attempt was indirect attempt. Indirect attempt in the sense that he had installed a puppet ruler on the throne of Nizam Shahi, and Shahaji was taking all the decisions in his name. So when Mughals and Adil Shah decided to conquer the region, they acquired the Nizam Shahi, they distributed the regions among themselves. And on the condition of Shah Jahan, Shahaji was spared. Shahaji's life was spared. There was a politics in that. Shah Jahan had witnessed the skills and bravery of Shahaji when Shahaji was with Mughals, and he wanted a general or a Sardar in Dakhan, which would be useful for him in future. So that was his thought process, though that did not happen. But because of his condition, the Shahji's life was spared. Else, Adil Shah had made the decision to execute Shahji. Yeah. Next slide, please. Yeah. The task was not that easy for Shivaji. There were different foreign powers who were ruling in India that time. Those were Mughals, Adil Shahi, and Qutub Shahi, Portuguese, Siddhis. Siddhis was a section of the African origin Islamic leaders who had settled in different parts of India. They came in India as slaves, but later point of time they rose to the ranks in the military, in the armies of different sultans. And one day they occupied some regions. So specific, if we say the western coast of Maharashtra, there are regions like Raigad, Alibag, or Murud Janjira. That region, coastal region, was occupied by Siddhis. Though their presence was not major in terms of area, in terms of region, but it was enough to create the nuisance for normal people staying in that area. And apart from that, British, French, and Dutch, though they had not settled in India by that time, but they were in the search of opportunity. So task was not easy for Shivaji. Yeah, many times we see the plan and say that the plan is good, but actual execution of that plan is very different. So that is where the character of the person it emerges. Next slide, please. What are a few unique things about him? That continuing with that, so he discontinued the system of Jagir or feudalism. So he stopped that, and all the people, all the generals, all the commanders, all the soldiers who were working for Swarajya were given salaries. He established naval force of Hindavi Swarajya, which is regarded as father of, because of this reason, Shivaji is regarded as father of Indian Navy. So even if we see the headquarters and offices of Navy, so we can see the Shivaji being termed as father of Indian Navy there. And the goal, making an independent kingdom, was not a final goal. It was way far more than that. So as a part of one milestone in that, he coronated. He was coronated. Title he took was Chhatrapati. Chhatrapati means the one. If we take the literal meaning, it means the one who holds the chhatra. But the meaning of subjects, he was mentioned is as per Shalivahan Shaka, which was being used in the region and at that time, which as per English calendar, it comes out to be 6th June 1674. He was coronated at Raigad Fort. Yeah. So this was his Rajamudra or seal, which is in Sanskrit. It reads Pratipa Chandra Lekhev Vardishnu Vishnu Vandita Shah Suno Shivasaisya Mudra Bhadraya Rajate. So I have given its translation, literal translation, in the next slide. It says that the glory of this mudra belongs to Shahji's son Shivaji. So it was prevalent in that time, in those days, that only name of any person was not being mentioned. Along with that, there was a trend to mention Shahji's son Shivaji. Or if we see the mudra of Sambhaji, it mentions Shivasuno Shambhu or Shivaji's son Shambhu. In that way. So they have, it says that it will grow like the first day moon, Pratipada, which is first moon day. So it says that the glory of Shivaji and his kingdom would grow like the first day moon, and it would be worshipped by world, and it will be for well-being of the people. Yeah, so this part till now what we have covered, it is kind of small introduction of who Shivaji was and how his Hindavi Swarajya was. So one thing to note here is the term Maratha Empire, which usually we use in many cases. So Maratha Empire is not a term of Chhatrapati Shivaji. The term which Shivaji Maharaj stressed was Hindavi Swarajya, which means the Swarajya. So the independent kingdom, which is governed by us, which is us means Hindus. And yeah, so before proceeding, so any doubts we have till now? Please stop if you can interrupt if there are any doubts. You can take up the questions. Else we'll take in the end. So the dream of Hindavi Swarajya. So what was Shivaji's dream? What was the motive behind formation of Hindavi Swarajya? So as I said, it was not a Maratha Empire or it was not a Maratha kingdom. It whenever it comes in the records of Shivaji, in the words of Shivaji, it is always Hindavi Swarajya. It is a very important point to note that some historians say that it was just a kingdom of or the Shivaji was just king of Marathas, which is not the case. Why? We will see that in the coming slides. Yeah, the dream was like, if we see in Shivaji's own words, the records say that Hindavi Swarajya is Shri's wish. So Shivaji used to say that, or he has mentioned it at several points, that formation of this Swarajya or expansion of this Swarajya is the wish of the god. Apart from that, apart from this sentence, like if I say in Marathi, we used to say, Hindavi Swarajya Bhave hi Shrinchi Ichha. So apart from that, any document or any letter or any record doesn't clearly mention what was exactly the dream of Shivaji or what was the exact motive. So different historians have interpreted the actions of Shivaji in their own ways. But why it was Hindavi Swarajya or why it was the kingdom of Hindus, that we'll see in the coming slides. Yeah. Slide, please. Fortunately, we found or there is a one record which says what is the exact dream of Shivaji or what is exact motive of Shivaji. Fortunately, we have that record. Unfortunately, that comes from the French record. Surendranath Seth has written one book by the name Foreign Biographies of Shivaji. And this book refers to one French record. There was a French traveler, Abbé Carré, who visited different parts of India on the western coast in 1672 AD. So 1672 is a year when Shivaji and Mughals, like from both the sides, the peace agreement was broken. Shivaji had started taking back all the forts which he had to give to Mughals in the Treaty of Purandar. According to one prior peace agreement, he had to give that. So before that agreement, there were 40 forts in and around the region of Pune, which were part of Pune and the coastal region of Maharashtra, which were the part of Hindavi Swarajya. And out of 40, 23 were given to Mughals as part of that treaty. And that agreement continued for 4 years till 1670. And from the start of 1670, Shivaji started taking back all the forts which were given to Mughals. And by the end of 1676, or I would say 1677, when Shivaji had campaigned in South India into different regions, and he returned back to Raigad. So around that time, there were approximately 300 forts in Hindavi Swaraj. The region had expanded. So this 1672 was a time when Swarajya was growing exponentially. Shivaji had become a famous personality in the politics of in the warfare of India. The primary reason for this was one thing: his dramatic escape from Agra, from the prison or from the prison of Aurangzeb. It was not a prison in true sense. It was he was under house arrest. One was that, and second was the exponential growth in Swarajya post 1670. So Abbé Carré, when he was, can go to next slide. When he visited some parts of Swarajya, which was in western coast, there is a place called Chaul near Alibag. He happened to visit or happened to interact with one of the officer of Shivaji. His name is mentioned as Krishnaji Bhaskar. So this Krishnaji Bhaskar is not to be confused with one more Krishnaji Bhaskar who was with Afzal Khan when Afzal Khan attacked Hindavi Swarajya. So that Krishnaji Bhaskar was different because that Krishnaji Bhaskar was killed in that battle, which happened in 1659. So this incident is 13 years after that. So it is safe. It is confirmed that the both Krishnaji Bhaskar are different. So he was officer at the naval post in Chaul. And that discussion mentions that the Abbé Carré asked, so what is the dream of your king? To which Krishnaji Bhaskar replied that to establish Shri's rule or God's rule, which here we are referring to Hindavi Swarajya, from Sindhu Sagar to Ganga Sagar. So, and Peshawar to Tanjavur. So, any guess what he is referring to Sindhu Sagar and Ganga Sagar here? Any guess from anyone on the talk?
It will be Indian Ocean to Ganga River, right?
Yeah, somewhat close to that.
Bay of Bengal. Yes, in the Ganga Sagar is Calcutta.
It reaches the ocean there, right? Bay of Bengal.
Correct. Yes.
And
I think it is Arabian Sea to Bay of Bengal.
Yeah, correct, correct. So Sindhu Sagar, in the ancient times, Arabic Sea was the term used for Arabic Sea in the Indian records was Sindhu Sagar,
Yeah.
because that is where the Sindhu Nadi joins sea. So that place was referred as Sindhu Sagar, or I can say the entire Arabic Ocean is referred to as Sindhu Sagar in old Indian records. It is unfortunate that we have named a sea after the names of invaders. We have named the roads in our country after the names of invaders. That is unfortunate thing. But yeah, things are changing, so we can hope the positive things. So in Sindhu Sagar or Arabic Sea in west to Bay of Bengal in east, and Peshawar to Tanjavur. Tanjavur is a part of Tamil Nadu. It's a southern part of Tamil Nadu, and Peshawar is traditionally it is considered as a last military outpost or last political outpost between India and Afghanistan. So when it was united India, so post Peshawar, it was all regions of Pakhtun tribes and the start of Afghanistan. That is why that comes here. So north to south and east to west. That's what is his dream. And if we see the Savarkar's definition of Hindu or Hindutva, it says almost the same thing. As Sindhu Sindhu Paryanta, Yassa Pitru Bhumika, Pitrubhu Punyabhu Shaiva, Staiva Hindu Rutismrta. So it says that from Sindhu to Sindhu. I don't think there is any other more secular definition of Hinduism other than this. So if we see the essence of this, the dream was not a small kingdom of himself with the limited things, but his dream was entire Indian region or Indian subcontinent or the old united India. That's what his dream was. The similar things are coming up now. Akhand Hindustan. So the inspiration is here, what I feel. So it's, and when we say that his dream was Hindavi Swaraj spanning all over India, it doesn't mean that it was his dream that he will rule the entire India. The idea was the different Hindu kings should stand up against all invaders and make the Hindavi Swarajya, or entire country, which is ruled by different kings. So to add to this point, so I mentioned the letters or his interactions with Mirza Raja Jai Singh. So we have seen during prior sessions that Mirza Raja Jai Singh, to give the background, he was Rajput king or Rajput leader from present-day Jaipur, who were loyal to Mughals. So, to give the reference, all of or most of you might be aware about Jodhabai and that part of the history. Jodhabai and his brother and his father surrendering to Mughals. So, Jai Singh was from the same lineage. They used to call them as Kachwa Rajputs, who are believed to be the descendants of Prabhu Shri Ram. And sometime back, I mentioned about the Treaty of Purandar. So that Treaty of Purandar was signed between two parties, of course, Maratha or the Hindavi Swarajya and Mughals. The leader appointed by Aurangzeb to conquer the region of Hindu Swarajya was Mirza. His name was Jai Singh, but Aurangzeb had given him a title of Mirza. The reason is Jai Singh had supported Aurangzeb in his competition for acquiring the throne, Mughal throne, and for that reason he had given a title of Mirza to Jai Singh, and he was a local king of the region of in and around Jaipur. So he used to bear a title of Raja. So it is Mirza Raja Jai Singh. So he had attacked the regions of Swarajya in 1664, 65 and 66, as it was creating more losses to the civilians in the region. So after a resistance of around 3 to 4 months, Shivaji decided to sign an agreement with Mughals and stop the war for the time being. And looking at the bravery and the record of Shivaji, or the looking at bravery of his soldiers, so Jai Singh was trying his best that Shivaji joins Mughals. Even he promised Shivaji to present him the Jagir of, or appoint him the governor of Dakhan, which is South India. But Shivaji had different plans. He would never have accepted that. In fact, Shivaji appealed. What Shivaji was expecting from Jai Singh was completely opposite. He was trying to convince Jai Singh on several occasions that you have a lot of resources. You are brave. You have proven your bravery in all the prior your campaigns. So instead of serving Mughals, overthrow the Mughal rule and established Hindu rule in your region or in the North India. Even Shivaji went to the extent saying that if he does so, Shivaji would accept the supremacy of Jai Singh, and Jai Singh can take hold of Delhi. He can coronate himself on the throne of Delhi, and Shivaji would give all his support on the condition that he overthrows Mughals. We can go to next slide. The similar letter you can see from Chhatrapati Sambhaji to Ram Singh, was Jai Singh's son. So when Aurangzeb was preparing for the campaign to demolish or destruct Hindavi Swarajya after Shivaji's death, the similar appeal was made by Sambhaji to Ram Singh, saying that we all Hindu kings will unite together and fight these Mughals and will overthrow them. You rule Delhi and you rule from the rest of India. We'll give our support. But on both the occasions, the appeal was neglected, and this family of Jaipur remained loyal with Mughals. The irony here is when Shivaji escaped from Agra, Aurangzeb, the doubt Aurangzeb had was Ram Singh and Jai Singh both together have helped Shivaji in escaping from Agra. So even having such of loyalty with Mughals, such claims were made on Jai Singh. Even going next, Aurangzeb through one of the servant of Jai Singh poisoned and killed Jai Singh on the with the claim that Jai Singh is no longer loyal to Mughals. He has joined hand with Shivaji, but still the family was loyal with Mughals. It's unfortunate that the thought that came to Shivaji's mind, or the idea that was with Shivaji, most of other kings or local leaders were not able to imagine that, or not able to accept that. Next, please. So even though it was the case, it was not that no one was following his idea. In fact, after escape from Agra, his name was spread across India. Not only that, Mughals had long bitter relations, or long struggle, or long fight against Iran. And there were regular discussions or regular correspondence between the ruler of Iran, emperor of Iran, and Aurangzeb, where even the emperor of Iran, he insulted Aurangzeb, saying that normal local king, you could not handle that person. He escaped from your prison, and you are taking the title of Alamgir and all. So that title is of no use. So you are not Alamgir, you are Bidargir. Bidargir, in the sense, the meaning of Alamgir is one who has conquered the world. But Bidargir means one who has conquered his family, which was the case in case of most of the Mughals, that to come to power, they had to at least kill their brothers. And if someone is more brave, or someone is braver, he would even go on to killing the father. So in the book Raja Shiv Chhatrapati, which is written by Babasaheb Purandare, he mentions that the Mughal prince would be thinking that why their father was born. If their father had not born, they would have directly went on and taken the Mughal throne. So most of the Mughal prince used to consider their father as a hurdle between their race to emperorship. But coming back to our original discussion, so taking inspiration from this, the Ahom king in Assam, they started preparing to resist Mughals in the coming years. So Shivaji escaped in 1666. So, and in 1677, the Ahom kings had one general called Lachit Barfukhan. So under his leadership, the Ahom army defeated Mughals. It was in 1671. It was a battle of Sarai Ghat. This battle was fought in Brahmaputra river near Guwahati. It's not that people were not taking inspirations in the same time from Shivaji. There were people who were taking the inspirations. Next slide, please. One more example I would like to include here is Chhatrasal Bundela. Again, he was a son of Champataraya Bundela, who was a local mercenary or warrior. This Champataraya Bundela was killed on the orders of Aurangzeb. And despite this, Chhatrasal was in the service of Mughals, was serving for Aurangzeb. But somewhere he was not happy with the way he was being treated there in the Mughal camps. So around the same, like in 1671, he left the Mughal camps and he came to Maharashtra and met Shivaji. The request what he made was, next slide please. So he was impressed by what all the Shivaji had done in Hindavi Swarajya. So he expressed his desire to serve for Shivaji and for Hindavi Swarajya. So Shivaji Maharaj was very happy. So who won't be happy? Such a warrior, who is great warrior or brave person coming and joining for the cause of Hindavi Swarajya. Anyone would like it. But Shivaji, having known his bravery and his skills, so instead of serving for himself, Shivaji advised him to go back to Bundelkhand, go back to his native land, and established independent kingdom there. They said, what I have done here, you need to do it in the Bundelkhand, which is your territory. The reason is his dream, Shivaji's dream. There should one Hindavi Swarajya in one part of the country was not sufficient. So it was his dream that everyone, all the kings in their or all the leaders in their respective regions should stand against not only Mughals but all foreign invaders. Chhatrasal accepted that advice, went back, fought against Mughals, and in the coming years, he established his independent kingdom. So when Chhatrasal left for Bundelkhand from Shivaji's region, any guess how many people he had with him to start the struggle or to start the fight? There were only 30 people with him. Of that, 5 were horsemen and around 20-30 foot soldiers. With that, he went back to Bundelkhand. So that is a different part of history, how he achieved the things. And the example what Shivaji gave him at that point was, it is there in the book Raja Shiva Chhatrapati. Shivaji mentions that I get a success because Ma Bhavani is with me, or the blessings of Bhavani Mata are with me. You go back to your region, you will get the blessings of Vrajaraj Shri Krishna. So nothing surprising that Shivaji had learned all the dharmic values in his childhood. The same things are reflecting in his address to Chhatrasal. He mentioned that if you succeed, you will rule your land. If you don't succeed or if you die in the struggle, you will achieve the heaven. That is exactly what Sri Krishna has told us in Bhagavad Gita. And the same things I say personally, the same thing were implemented by Shivaji in his life. Yeah, we can go next. I've added this picture of Shivaji's meeting with Chhatrasal. So when Chhatrasal came to Rajgarh, so Shivaji was not there. He was on the campaign. So Chhatrasal did not stop there. He traced Shivaji. Like he followed wherever Shivaji had gone. And the region where this meeting took place is somewhere around, somewhere nearby Miraz, and Kurundwad, which is around the present day border of Maharashtra and Karnataka. So he camped there with Shivaji on whichever campaign Shivaji was. And Shivaji brought him back to Rajgarh along with him. He stayed there for 6 to 7 months. He passed on few important things to be taken care of. It is not that just blindly told that you form your kingdom and he left him. It was not that way. He passed on the whatever required things were there in terms of strategy, in terms of warfare. Yeah, Chhatrasal was brave, but few things come from experience. Few things come with failure. That he passed on to Chhatrasal. Yeah, next slide, please. Yeah, so one more part of this our today's discussion, that why it was Hindavi Swarajya. It was not just a kingdom or not an empire. Why there were terms like Hindavi and Swarajya associated with that. So we'll go into that discussion, but before that, there are some claims which are made about Shivaji, and many of these are now spreading across in past few years. And I'm personally observing that many liberals are so-called liberals are coming and saying that Shivaji was secular. He never demolished a mosque. The titles like Go Brahman Pratipalak, which literally means protector of cow and Brahmins, these titles are fake. Shivaji did not have these titles, and these titles were added in the latter part of the time. This is what they claim. And there are few self-declared historians which go on to say that there were 30-40% Muslims in the army of Hindavi Swarajya. And someone goes to the extent of saying that most of his bodyguards were Muslim. So we'll look at some of these claims. Next slide, please. Yeah, the important point to bring here, Shivaji never calculated the percentage or count of his soldiers based on religion. This is very important thing to note. His army consisted of people from all castes and communities. Yeah, some of them were Muslims. I don't deny that there were Muslims in his army. Some of them were Muslims, and even some of them were Portuguese. So this might be interesting, or this might be surprising, how Portuguese people were there in the Swarajya employment. Yeah, of course, most of them were for the temporary purpose. Yeah, we'll go next. I thought of adding this because this point, because this is very important, and we should not. I feel that we should not entertain such claims which are baseless. So, thing is, as I said, there were few Muslims in Shivaji's army. So, who were there? I have listed them. So, I'm. If someone comes across and says that there were 30%, 40%, or his bodyguards were Muslim, so the best question that we should ask is list out their names. Yeah, I have listed few which were there, whose names come in the records. But I can say for sure there was not a single name in addition to this as per the record. So if someone has some such record, they are open to bring it. Okay. His names are Siddhi Hilal, Siddhi Ibrahim. Yeah. So out of this, Siddhi Hilal was there with Shivaji from beginning. That is true. And the name suggests he was from the Siddhi origin. The slaves which had come to this region. I mentioned around the beginning of the session. And this Siddhi Hilal was purchased as a slave by one of Shivaji's uncle, Khedoji. And this person was being treated as a family member. He himself had expressed his wish to convert to Hindu religion. But sorry, the main problem was, the main challenge was, if someone is converted to Hindu religion in those times, all the caste system which we had, none of that was ready to accept someone who is converting to Hinduism from other religion. That was a real challenge. Yeah, there are some examples where Shivaji converted some of his old associates to Hinduism. That will come across in next few slides. But the difference in those cases was the two examples we'll see going forward. Both of them were original Hindus who were forcefully converted. So when they expressed their desire, or when Shivaji expressed the desire to convert them back to Hinduism, there was no resistance from any of the community. But in case of Siddhi Hilal, that was not the case. He was not original Hindu, so he could not be converted to Hinduism. Siddhi Ibrahim, again, he was there from the beginning, from the initial days, and his name comes in the records on several occasions. Daulat Khan, who was the admiral of the Navy, Navy of Hindavi Swarajya when it was established. But later point, around late 1670s, he was imprisoned. The exact reason is not given, but he was imprisoned and put in jail. Yeah, there are few more names, but most of them either disappear from the records, or there are no mentions of them, or there are mentions of they being terminated from the service. So apart from this, if anyone has any other name, or if anyone of us comes across someone saying that there were so many Muslims in Shivaji's army, ask them to give a name in addition to this. They'll not be able to give. Yeah, next slide, please. Yeah. So one example I have given why Shivaji was not having many Muslims in his Hindavi Swarajya. There were a few handful of them, but why there were not many? So example I have mentioned here, Venkoji, who was Shivaji's half brother, was staying in Bangalore with Shahaji. After Shahaji, Venkoji was given the Jagir of Bangalore. And in later point of time, after Shivaji's coronation, even Venkoji captured the regions of Tanjore and declared himself an independent king. And since he had contacts or influence with Adil Shahi court, he appointed many Muslim ministers and councillors in his court. When Shivaji came to know about this, he wrote a letter to Venkoji, and in hard words, in strict words, he said that if you are achieving Hindavi Swarajya, if your dream is Hindavi Swarajya, Turks are not fit for that. You will not achieve the goal if you are employing Turks in your court. Turks is a word used for Muslims in Shivaji's records. So there are several words which come. One is Turks, one is Mlech, which are common words used for Muslim. Yeah. Next slide, please. Yeah. Coming to reality, Shivaji never had hatred for any religion, any unnecessary hatred, I would say, any unprovoked hatred. However, he was a strong follower of Hindu Dharma. That is for sure. that there are many evidences for this. And there are historical records. Whoever says that Shivaji never demolished a mosque or he was a secular. So whatever we will be coming across in the next slides, just pass on this information. There are historical records where Shivaji has demolished mosques. Yeah. Next slide, please. Yeah. The first example which comes is 1657, when the Swarajya was expanding. The regions of Kalyan and Bhiwandi, which are near to Mumbai, those were conquered and those were added to Hindavi Swarajya. And Bhiwandi, many of you might have heard, there is a dense or high population of Muslim community in that region. And the MLA from Bhiwandi is Abu Azmi. So you can imagine what kind of region that is. So when Hindavi Swarajya, this part was added to Hindavi Swarajya, the mosques from this region were demolished on the orders of Shivaji. So these mosques were such where earlier there were temples, originally there were temples, and temples were destructed by Islamic invaders or Islamic rulers, and mosques were built. So Shivaji demolished them and reconstructed the temples. And Qazis and Maulavis from this region, they all were arrested and they were put in prison. So this record comes in Shiva Bharat. So whenever we have to look at the claims about Shivaji, there are several things, several records which we need to look at, or several types of records we need to look at. First one is what Shivaji's associates are saying about Shivaji, what Shivaji's enemy says about Shivaji, what does a neutral person says about Shivaji, and what his descendants say about Shivaji. And the whichever things are fulfilled by all these criteria, we are safe to say that Shivaji was like that. So first is record from Shiva Bharat, which was Shiva Bharat is written by, composed by Govinda Nevaskar, Paramananda Govinda Nevaskar, who was in the court of Shivaji, and the Shiva Bharat was written on the orders of Shivaji himself. So this Shiva Bharat has 32 chapters. 31 chapters are complete and 32nd is incomplete because this Paramananda Nevaskar, he passed away when it was incomplete. The 32nd chapter was incomplete. Shiva Bharat doesn't mention about coronation. There are no mentions of coronation because the coronation had not happened and Paramananda Nevaskar passed away. So there is one more record in Shiva Bharat that it's Adil Adil Shah's message to Afzal Khan. So Adil Shah says that if these actions of Shivaji continue, it will be a big hurdle in our duty of spreading Islam. Which actions? Actions in Kalyan Bhiwandi. So I am deploying you for the campaign against Shivaji. So whoever says that Afzal Khan was fighting against Shivaji for political reasons, it was not a political reason. It was religious reason. And why? Because it was the Shivaji's kingdom was Hindavi Swarajya. It was kingdom of Hindus. Let's see what Mughals say about this incident. So this is a letter written by Matbar Khan to Aurangzeb. Matbar Khan was appointed as an officer in the region of Kalyan and Bhiwandi in 1689. So after Sambhaji's death, the region of Raigad, Kalyan, Bhiwandi, once again it went out of Hindavi Swarajya, and Mughals added it under their control. So when Matbar Khan was appointed, this is what later he writes to Aurangzeb. Right? All the mosques and madrasas in the region are demolished by Kafar Bacha. So this Kafar Bacha is a reference used for Shivaji. I have built one mosque at Shinoli from my private funds. Now, as our people have started settling down in this region, I urge you to arrange for the funds so that I can rebuild all the demolished mosques and madrasas. So if Shivaji had not demolished a mosque and built the temples, so what this Matbar Khan is referring to? Which demolished mosque? Definitely, this such records are helpful in showing the real image of Shivaji. Instead of it is not important that what we think about how Shivaji was. It is important what Shivaji was in reality. Yeah, next slide, please. Yeah. So in Tamil Nadu, so this demolition of mosque and reconstruction of temples is not limited to the regions of Maharashtra. So some of you might be surprising to see the references of these. In 1676 to 1677, for around 1.5 years, Shivaji was on the campaign in South India. So 1674, he was coronated. After that, he he had an idea where he would make an alliance of, try to make an alliance of Hindu kings in South India and to form an united resistance against Mughals. Because looking at the actions of Aurangzeb and his plans, it was evident that one day or the other, the Mughals or the Aurangzeb would enter South India with all his force. And that time there should be a unity among the kings or the leaders. Unfortunately, that could not happen. As I said, the vision was missing in most of the kings of that time. The regions during this campaign, the regions of Jinji, Vellore were added to Hinduvi Swarajya. So there are references of two locations. One is in Tiruvannamalai and one is near Tanjavur. The original temples were destroyed and those were converted to mosques. And on the orders of Shivaji, both the mosques were destroyed, demolished, and temples were restored. I tried to find this reference for this is Shivaji, His Life and Times by Gajanan Mehendale and Shivacharitra Sahitya Volume 2, which is published by Bharat Itihas Samshodak Mandal, Pune. So these two records mention about this Chunachalpati temple. Some records I have seen the name of this as Arunachalapati temple, Tiruvannamalai, and Sometti Perumal temple. So Kavi Bhushan, we looked at what Shivaji's associates were saying, what his enemy was saying. So let's have a look at what Kavi Bhushan is saying about Shivaji. I'll just give the summary of this poem, this verse, which Kavi Bhushan has dedicated to Shivaji. So many of you might have read or heard about only the last line of this, which is Kasi ho ki kala jati, Mathura masjid hoti, Shivaji na hote, to sunti hot sabki. I guess the meaning is clear, right? What he is trying to explain. If there was no Shivaji, then all were bound to be converted. It's the simple meaning of this. So, but what he says in the beginning of this verse. So temples are destroyed everywhere, and everywhere it's a flag or nishan of Allah, which is making the rounds. All the kings have run away. They have run away from their palaces, run away from their regions, or run away from their duties. Even the god Gaura Ganapati, which refers to Shakti and Ganapati, those who are destroyer of the problems, even they have vanished. And everywhere it's only Peer, Paigambar, it's everywhere. There are no scope for the Hindu values. Kashi is destroyed. The Vishweshwar temple was destroyed by Aurangzeb in, if I'm not wrong, around 1669 and somewhere between 69 to 1670. Mathura was converted to mosque. If Shivaji was not there, then all were bound to convert. Yeah, next slide, please. Whoever says that Shivaji did not contribute for the protection or for expansion of Hindu kingdom or Hindu values, they need to read this. वेद राखे विदित, पुराण पर सिद्ध रखे, राम राख्यो, राम नाम राख्यो अति रसना सुघर में. हिंदून की चोटी रोटी राखी है सिपाहन की, कंधे में जनेऊ राख्यो, माला राखी घर में. मीडी राखे मुगल, मुगल्स आर scared. मरोड़े राखे पातसा, the emperor Aurangzeb, even he is scared. The last line is the essence of what Kavi Bhushan has observed about Shivaji. Rajan ki had rakhi. He has protected his region. He has protected his kingdom. Tegabal Sivraj, how he has protected? With the power of sword, he has protected. Dev rakhe deval, sodharma rakhyo ghar mein. The gods in temple are because of Shivaji, and the people are able to follow their dharmic values, dharmic practices, is because of Shivaji. What Kavi Bhushan says. Even if we take away few things as the essence, that is important here. Next slide, please. Yeah. So whoever says that Shivaji was secular, they should have explanation for this. If Shivaji was secular and he was treating all the religions with same importance, why did he convert two of his relatives or two of his associates back to Hinduism? First one was Babaji Nimbalkar, was Shivaji's brother-in-law. So when Afzal Khan attacked Hindu Swarajya, Babaji Nimbalkar, being a relative of Shivaji, though this Babaji Nimbalkar was in the service of Adil Shah and he was appointed under Afzal Khan, to put emotional pressure on Shivaji, he converted Babaji Nimbalkar to Islam. Even Netoji Palkar was the Senapati of Shivaji's cavalry. For some reasons, Netoji Palkar had left the service of Shivaji and he had joined Mughals. But when Shivaji escaped from Agra, Aurangzeb, out of frustration, he ordered to capture Netoji Palkar. Though Netoji Palkar was working for Mughals that time, he ordered to arrest him, and he was forcefully converted to Islam. So when Netoji Palkar came back to Swarajya after a decade or around 10 to 11 years, so Shivaji reconverted him back to Hinduism, Hindu religion, or Hindu Dharma. So if Shivaji was secular, what was the need to convert people back to Hindu Dharma? Definitely, he was a strong follower of Hindu Dharma. And there is no reason to say that Shivaji was secular. In fact, I would say Hindu is secular by birth, And India would, I would, this may seem a bit aggressive, but I would say that India would remain secular. So whatever these so-called liberals are expecting India to be secular, it would remain secular as long as Hindus are a majority. I know this is an aggressive statement. Yeah, this is my opinion. Next slide, please.
When will you pause, Omkar, for part 1? It's further ahead, is it?
Sorry.
For part 1.
Yeah, we have a few more slides actually.
Okay,
Is that fine? We'll continue.
Sure,
Or?
Okay.
Okay. So let's say what Sambhaji's records mention about Shivaji. So Sambhaji had given a grant to one of the Dharmic Institute owned by Namdev Bhatt Bakre. And it mentions following titles for his ancestors. Maloji was Shivaji's grandfather. So Sambhaji has used title as Gaurav Brahman Paripalak. For Shahaji, he has used title as Haindava Dharma Jirnodhar Karna Dhritimati, the one who is busy or one who is involved in the Jirnodhara of Hindu Dharma. And for Shivaji, he has used title as Mlechak Shaya Dikshita, the one who has taken the duty or the diksha of Mlechak Shaya, or reducing the Islamic power in India. So why Sambhaji would project Shivaji as Hindu if he was secular? There was no reason, right? The only reason is Shivaji was Hindu, strong follower of Hindu Dharma. He was not secular. Yeah. Next slide, please. I have listed one more example. This is more surprising. This is related to Shivaji's campaign in Goa. So when Shivaji had signed a peace agreement with Mughals, so he decided to turn his attention to a long pending matter of Goa. At that time, Goa was ruled by Portuguese, and there were three main sections of Goa. It was Bardes, Tiswadi, and Sashti. So Bardes is the north part of Goa, Tiswadi is the central part of Goa, and Sashti is the south part of Goa. And Bardes was some regions of Bardes were partially with Shivaji, and some regions, the rule on some regions used to shift between Shivaji and Portuguese, or Hindavi Swarajya and Portuguese. So next slide, please. And around the same time, there was a new Portuguese governor who was appointed, and he was stationed in Tiswadi. So all headquarters and all offices of Portuguese were in the central Goa region. And many of us have heard about Inquisition in Goa, the Portuguese Inquisition. So it was a series of inhuman actions which were put on the citizens of Goa, people of Goa. The intention or the real motive behind that was mass conversion of people into Christianity. And all types of atrocities were put on the people, the citizens. And around this time frame, 1667, so there was a new rule introduced by a Portuguese governor. And as per this new rule, the citizens of Goa were ordered to convert to Catholic Christianity if they wish to retain their estates. If you don't convert to Christianity, all your estates will be seized. That's what the rule was. And coincidentally, Shivaji was camping in the Bardes region, which is North Goa region, around this time frame. The reason was there was some some issues, some fights going on among the landlords in Sawantwadi. Sawantwadi was a part of Hindu Swarajya permanently. And for that reason, Shivaji was camping in the region of Bardes. Next slide, please. And people came to know, the citizens residing in Tiswadi, somehow they came to know, they got the news that Shivaji is camping in Bardes. So why did these people think of going to Shivaji? Why did they think that he was a king? That reason is there. But why would Shivaji save them from the forceful conversions to Christianity? The reason was it was Hindavi Swarajya. What Shivaji had established was Hindavi Swarajya, and it was for welfare of Hindus. So when Shivaji came to know about all this matter, so he ordered his soldiers. So on his orders, the soldiers attacked the border region between Bardes and Tiswadi. And 4 Jesuit priests or Jesuit padris who were involved in implementation of this new rule in the region were arrested. They were brought in front of Shivaji, and Shivaji asked them that now you are standing in the Hindavi Swarajya, you are standing in Hindu kingdom. So if you are forcing the citizens in your region to convert to Christianity, I am ordering you to convert to Hinduism. So all 4 of them denied this. They did not agree for converting to Hinduism. So on this, Shivaji beheaded all 4 of them. So all 4 of them were beheaded. Yeah, the things are shocking. We may not have heard these incidents before, but all these incidents come in one or the other record. Yeah, next slide, please. Not only they were beheaded, their heads were sent as present to Portuguese governor. Even Shivaji made the plans. He called all his troops to Bardes with the plan that now he is going to attack Tiswadi. And when Portuguese governor came to know of this, so when you take such actions, sometimes actions are sufficient to make the enemy nervous. So immediately Portuguese governor started talking about the peace agreement. And since Shivaji had other military plans, so he agreed for this peace agreement on the condition that this rule would be revoked, and this rule of conversion was revoked. Next slide. This is not the only thing in this campaign. There is a famous temple in Norway part of Goa, which is Saptakoteshwar. This original temple was constructed by Kadambas. From Kadambas, the power of the region of Goa went to Bahamanis for a brief period of time, during which it was destructed. When it came under control of Vijayanagar Empire, this temple was restored back. But the fate of the temple was not limited to this. When Portuguese rule started in 1510 in Goa, approximately 50 years after that, in 1560, the temple was now demolished by Portuguese. And there was a church constructed on it. So it did not go from Vijayanagar to Portuguese. From Vijayanagar, the Goa went to Adil Shahi for some period of time. And from Adil Shahi, it went to Portuguese. And in 1560, Portuguese demolished the temple. And it did not stop there. They constructed the church on it. And moreover that, the Shivalinga in that temple was removed from its position. It was put on the place where we put our where we keep our foot while picking up water from the well. It was totally insulting. So when Shivaji heard of this, he ordered reconstruction of the temple. Next slide, please. Yeah. So soon after peace agreement with Portuguese, Shivaji ordered to restore the original temple, and in 1668 it was restored, reconstructed. Next slide, please. Yeah. So till this point, we are done with the idea of Hindu Swarajya, or how it was Hindu Swarajya. So the next part is administration, how the administration was being taken care. So Hari, should we continue or we'll start this in next session?
It is better to continue next part 2. We can end it here.
Sure. So we'll stop, pause here for today. And if we have any questions, we'll take that.
Okay, thank you, Omkar, for this session. I request the attendees to come forward with comments or questions. So,
You told,
okay, Raghu, sir, please.
you told Chhatrapati, you were giving some explanation. It was not heard properly. Chhatrapati.
Okay. So if we see the literal meaning of the word Chhatrapati, it is the one who holds the Chhatra, or one who bears the Chhatra. This is a literal meaning, word to word meaning. But the hidden meaning, or the meaning that has to be taken, is the one who holds the Chhatra and protects his subjects or protects his citizens.
Okay.
And some places the Chhatra is the symbol of sovereignty.
Okay.
So if we see, there are many occasions where there are discussions or meetings between two kings or two heads of the two nations. And at such points, there are several gifts which are exchanged between both the parties. And the Chhatra or umbrella, it is a thing which is prohibited from gifting to anyone. Because gifting an umbrella or gifting a Chhatra to other king, the symbolic meaning is the king is offering the other king or the head of other nation to take over the control of that country or that kingdom.
Okay. Thank you. Okay.
Okay, any other comment or question? Okay, in that case, we will end the session here with the Shanti Mantra. Thank you, Omkar. Thanks, everyone. So may I request Nagi, sir? Nagi? Yes, please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, I don't know, my video may not be seen. सर्वे भवन्तु सुखी हाँ
We are able to see you and hear you both.
ओके ओके सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः
Nikhil, please stop the recording.